landscape design program, and I will leave it to you.
Very good, very good. Thank you for coming. You filled the room. It is a beautiful fall day, and the suggestion was at the end of the season, growing season, we like to look back. Well, I'm thinking we're looking forward. Landscape design is not something that can be taught in an hour or a week or a day, maybe a lifetime or more. So I'm going to give you a taste of things. You may go away with more questions than answers, but that's the way the world turns. Welcome to my world. Landscape design is something that you as an individual can do. You can review it. Think of it, don't think of it as a blank piece of paper, which is what my mother gave me as a child. Think of it as a full canvas, and you are just gathering it all in and you're placing it in your landscape and in your world. The natural world is so incredible here. I don't have to tell you. All you have to do is step outside, and we have the impact of a very diverse landscape. We have to know where we are. So I've got a couple things I'll repeat, and I want to say at first, because you're going to find this presentation a little, it's not linear. Landscape design is not linear. It's circular, it's cumulative, right? It's not a linear process. So we'll go from there. To dream. Dreaming just a little bit. We're going to brainstorm. You're going to brainstorm. You're going to get inspired. You're going to write it down. This is something I had my clients do. If they balked, I did it with them. We wrote it down, gave it prose. We evaluate the site. Evaluation of the site could take a long time, but it could be, there's some things, key things that you need to do. Make a plan. Just go ahead, make a plan. And then step in, meaning get started, do something quick and easy. Review it, find out if you liked it or you didn't like it, successes, and then I'm going to give, this is a 90-year-old person saying this, but it's all of us, is keep going, keep going. So I want to look at the picture. Can we dim the lights just a pinch? Half or something? I'm going to go back, let your eyes look. Did this, oh, yeah, don't anybody go to sleep, okay? All right, so the natural, this is, I believe this is Skinny Dip Falls off the Parkway before the storm. But notice the conifers, the small texture, the large texture, the distant view, the deciduous, and this pool that gives reflection, all right? And then we're gonna move to a man-made. This is in Grand Rapids. I have a friend here that told me to go there, to this garden. But in this man-made landscape, we have a conifer to the back, we have the sculpture of the Japanese maple, we have the maidenhair fern and other ferns, and the moss, and it looks mature. There's access with your eye, and a walkway diagonal across you. There's movement with the water. This is a man-made element, right? But I am sure was brought by the impact of the natural environment. So I just wanted to get you to start looking, use your eyes, and discover. What do you want out of your landscape? This is the question that personalized. When I worked with clients, I would ask them what they wanted, and sometimes husband and wives and families and grandparents and anybody who was a part of the landscape, they all had interests and they all had a view. To write it down and look out and write that description down, take pictures, collect it. They used to do dream boards and all that, or a folder, but collect those ideas. Maybe that's addresses, right? People's, what's going on? I went forward. Well, that's great. Oh, there we go. When we're writing it down, these are the questions, and you're going to start with describing your ideal space. Who are the users? Who goes there? Who will go there? What would it feel like, smell like, look like? What would you do, if anything, in that space? What are the activities in that space? Sometimes we don't even use a space at all. We just go there. What are the missing elements? That's a lot of times where I'll walk into a space and I'll go, I have an idea because so-and-so is gone. There's no place to sit, or maybe there's nothing moving or nothing changing with the seasons. A wish list. A wish list is super important. The kinds of spaces that you need, and then the size of those things. How does the land lend itself to a given use? You don't want a pickleball court on a 40% slope. I mean, that's silly. That's absolutely ridiculous. All right, what is so special about your space, and determine how to protect and preserve? We all have special spots, and we just haven't figured it out yet. Within any given acreage or tenth of an acre, we have special locations. All right, and this, just look at, it looks like a lot of words. Basically, it's writing it down. The first part is, where am I? We're Transylvania County, hardiness zone. What is your elevation? It's super important to know your elevation because of the plant environment and the timing of things. Orientation is super, what's orientation? That sounds like, which way is south? Which way is north? It could be what in landscape terms we call it facing. So a slope that is on the south side is north facing. Does that make sense? If you're on a north facing slope here, you're in the shadow and your shadow changes. So it's very significant. Many of us are in a mountain cove situation, deciduous forests with shallow acidic soils. Soil testing can be done here. The pros that are here are just a way of putting into words what it is you want your landscape to do. This is broken up front yard and backyard, with defining what it is you want to do, the kinds of spaces. And then you separate the wants and the needs. And the needs, like where does the water go, is incredibly important. Underground utilities are important. Access is important. If you've got a problem with disease or a situation with a dead tree, take out that dead tree first. You know, if you have an issue, deal with it up front before you get going there. Providing access, if I am an active person, I might need a better path in the future, right? If I have a path that is treacherous, consider doing some effort now to gain access to your property. Make a list of constructive components that fit the stated purpose. Okay, so there are elements that fit these needs, right? So we're evaluating the site. We're going to go, where are your property lines? You need to know where your property lines are. It's most important. If somebody's going to cut a tree, or if somebody's going to need a view, or if somebody is pouring water on you, you need to know where your property lines are. Rise and run, that is slope. You define a rise and run. You need to know where, if you're going to tackle the slope, what is the best place to do it. And understanding orientation, we talked about that. Within the full scope of your landscape, there are pockets created by structures, trees, slopes, the house itself, that are going to create microclimates. And they might have a completely different opportunity for you. The health of the material, their native materials in context with plant communities. What's a plant community? If you live in community as people, it's your neighbors, right? So in a plant community, we have canopy, understory, shrubs, ground covers, perennials, vines, mosses, so the whole plant community. And I have a book that explores that. There are many sources on that, but you basically look at what you have and then go from there. All right, and soil tests are available here, the county. Documenting utilities at 811 is out there. They give you a number. It's very important. If you've ever cut a line, I cut a cable on Super Bowl Sunday. If you make a failure, you make a failure. So if 811. Anybody remember that? 811, call 811. They will come and they mark utilities, underground utilities for you. And they paint your ground, and then it's good for so long and then goes on from there. How will the property be used in the future? Don't just think about today. Think about what the possibilities in the future. The negative elements, screening. I'll tell you that screening and taking a view, screening is up to you, not your neighbor, right? I've told this to clients for a long, long time. In a very urban situation, not urban, suburban situation, your neighbor goes right up to your line, right? And they put a fence up. You go, oh, I don't want to look at that fence. Well, whose problem is it? You take care of yours and deal with those aspects. Views here are really important. And views here, you can have a borrowed view, that is created. Determine the prime locations. This is really fun. If you want to go out and set a chair, put a stake, put something out there that goes from here, look what I can see. Look how comfortable I am. Look where the sun comes at a certain time of the year. Look where the edge of the landscape is doing at this point. Prime locations. I told Bart's told, had this discussion that we are like rabbits. Rabbits like to be on the edge of a forest. People like to be on the edge of a forest. So if you don't have any edges, maybe that's one reason why you don't stick around in your landscape very long, because edges create an inviting environment for us. We talked about the water and taking access not only for afterthought, but during construction. How do you get in there to get those boulders in there or get that tree out or whatever? So considering, if you're going to put a structure, like a shed or something, that you're leaving enough width to get around it, right? Okay, evaluating. We've done that. How long does it take to evaluate a landscape? Forever, right? Okay. Yeah, in an ideal world, at least, a year, 365 days. But we don't usually have that time. We just have to realize that is a very important thing, is to consider the opposite season. Shade and shadow is incredibly important here. Shade and shadow changes. Right now, areas that had sun in the summertime do not. So we've already made that change, and the length of the daylight hours affect plant material. So it's very effective there to think about it. I'm pointing out here why we are so unique. This dark kind of green here, 8.44, is the Blue Ridge. It's just this little tiny area here, and we have the diversity of elevation, plant material, the non-effect of plate tectonics, meaning plate tectonics didn't affect us. They shifted all around us. So here we are in the Blue Ridge with a very unique area. Why should we emulate Charlotte, Atlanta, Florida, wherever you're from? Because we have such a unique space here. That is something to embrace, right? So I'm going to say this kind of again and again. We have a wonderful space. This sense of where we are probably should be in your landscape. All right, so this painting, I don't know how you were affected by it, but it is massive. It's in the North Carolina Art Museum in Raleigh. It's bigger than I am. And it tells me that comfortable space, that bright light that comes through, the enclosure of the umbrella, the place to seat, the surrounding of landscape just invites me in. And so you find inspiration pretty much anywhere if you look at it. This is a 1910 picture. All right, so 2 landscapes, somewhat natural landscape. This is the Appalachian Trail. This is Bouchard Gardens with its drifts of riotous color in September. The left one is man-made, and it was a quarry, a rock quarry that's been renovated over all these years. So in the landscape, we are looking to what makes us comfortable, what inspires us, what do we like, what do we don't. There's no riotous color on the right, okay? And the other color is maybe drawing you in. Is it a place to pass through or is it a place to stay? Good landscape design. This is a quote. Good landscape design creates a satisfying environment for the user while saving time, effort, money, and benefits the environment. All that is a good. So there is a definition between good and bad design, right? So if you look at the left, you look at the right, good and bad. But we are here to improve, conserve, and protect. So as we jump into design, we are looking at areas or rooms that are connected and they have gateways or transition spaces. We have that list of needs and wants. All right, remember I said this is secular in a cycle. Prioritize what we need. Select the plant material. See how far down the list select plant material comes in? We pick out those plants and then we say, where am I going to put it now? It's so much fun. And I do that. But I've got a nugget here, and I think that the selecting plant material, when you go out and you get something, have a space already set that is a possibility of putting a plant that you're trying out. The last one on the bottom is what I want to really introduce today, and you've heard it. I don't know how many people have heard it, but the 70-30 rule. Has anybody heard of the 70-30 rule? Rules are meant to be broken. No. The 70-30 rule has to do with sustainability. If 70% of the landscape remains sustainable, meaning it sticks in and out, it's easy to maintain, it's going to work on its own. 30% is experimental, it's a splash of color, it's annual, it's maybe costs a little bit more. It always costs more when you change out seasonally, right? So 70-30. Could it be 80-20? Yep. So I think 30 is kind of max. Piet Udolf, Danish landscape designer, he's still around. He's done these massive landscape designs. And he is given the 70-30, he's been given credit for it. Other designers, writers, etc., are using this term, and they're using it to their own wishes. And you'll see in his designs about that. To the left is a Piet Udolf 70-30 landscape. To the right is Lana Lee's landscape. And I want you to look at similarities. I want you to look at what we have to the left. Massive landscapes. We're talking, nothing under 40 acres, thousands of acres. He does these huge things all over the world. One is the High Line in New York. My daughter goes there every time she goes to New York. It's a very restful, peaceful, elevated landscape that goes, it's 1.5 miles, I believe. But the idea here is that we have a point of access, a point of interest, a location for a view, a prime location. We have seasonal change. We have a background of evergreen. And Lana's shows this is a year old, but it's been a labor of love, and it's right here in Transylvania County. All right, basic landscape design. These are Cindy-isms. I came up with this because as a landscape architect, you do not study garden design. How about that? You study exterior spaces as they relate to people. Okay. So in landscape, I just fell into landscape design because I just loved it, and I decided I'm going to study it and I'm going to figure this out myself. And this is what I came up with. And then later, there's a book right there. It's pretty. It has some of the same ideas. There's a landscape architect, and he wrote it. And this is concepts from concept to form in landscape design. And there's a landscape architect that wrote it. But I found that after I came up with this idea. So the concept is everything in the garden design is a dot, a dash, or a mass. Who's here has heard me talk about a dot, a dash, or a mass? Anybody? Okay. So a dot is, let's go to the dot. A dot is a singular point, focal point. Could be a lot of different things. Could be any kind of specimen. But the idea is a point of concentration. It could be the surprise around the corner, and it enhances the landscape, but it causes you to stop or pause, right? So it affects motion in the garden. Dash. A dash could be continuous or broken. Pick it. Dot or dash or mass. Dash is a line of view, a travel way, a perspective. It pulls you through the landscape. The dash is curved or straight, right? It also could be an edge, a hard edge, a wide edge. A mass. A mass is a pool of material that controls movement, controls the landscape. It can be very strong. You can control the width from narrow to wide, and you can back them up and call them drifts. In the 1800s, we have a landscape designer, Gertrude Jekyll, who labeled this. Later, landscape people have been dealing with drifts for a long time. I called them lima beans when I was working on this. And the outside of the lima bean moves you along. The inside of the lima bean pulls you, causes you to linger, right? So this dot, dash, and a mass are all things in the dot, this focal point, stopping, the dash, the path. These clear pieces put together, the mass can be the background, right? I talked about making the mass adrift, but the mass can be the background. Without backgrounds, the landscape becomes, well, it keeps going until it hits a background, really. All right. Focal point. Could be a specimen fern. It's no longer there because the deer ate it. But it could be just a small piece of garden work. It can be, my favorite thing right now are pruned up shrubs in containers. They come and go in favor in the landscape world, but they are so useful. You can move them, you can place them, you can save something that you have been wanting to grow. You can prune up a really ugly shrub into a evergreen small little tree, place it next to a seating area, and voila, you have a transitional space coming into your patio. The right is just a red chair. That's a Canadian thing. But the idea is it really does give you punch. It really gives punch to, and it's sited for a view. The other is just a little stonework. It could be a mighty stonework. Or I didn't put in the fancy fountain or the bird bath or the whatever. Those are all focal points. All right, the paths. I find this to be this is your strongest component, the most needed, and the easiest to do. The path around this garden in the middle, that's from Guilford. That's in a master gardening demo garden, and it's called a crevice garden because the rocks are put in. Why did it do that? It's there now.
The TV.
Okay, just tell me. Yep.
TV's only 40
Don't be
years
alarmed.
old.
We're trained professionals.
It's just on a timer.
No, it's not.
Sorry about the lights.
Sorry. Well, while she's doing that, a path, how wide does a path need to be? How wide? This is good, right? Until it isn't, because if I had a bigger garden cart or something I need to get in there, or two people or an ATV or whatever, the smallest path I might need could be a size of a brick. Take a brick this way and 2 bricks this way. That's about all you need to get in there, right? But a generous path, then maybe wider for equipment, right? But this is a point of contention. If the path is too small, then you've just ruined it. You really have to work on it. And so it doesn't hurt to take a tape measure and measure when you're in different spaces and just say, oh, that's perfect. That works great. Just look at it. So the garden path is something that, in the material of the garden path, if it's gravel and it's all the same size rock, it's going to turn in your ankle. If it's varying sizes, it will compact. It'll still let water through, but it'll compact. So what do we want in a garden path? A granite dust path or an aggregate that is varying sizes that has the fines in it. Don't get the gravel that has the fines washed out, because it's going to, well, it'll be cleaner, but it's going to, your ankles are going to turn. All right, so pea gravel is terrible to walk on because it's washed and it's round and your feet and ankles roll on it. Brick works. So this pathway goes all the way around. That is not so wide that you couldn't step over and maintain on both sides. So the path actually acts as the edge. The path in this at the ranger station, this lower right, is just a mulch path. It gives access, but it also gives interest. The upper right is Bouchard Garden again, and the path there is leads your eye through the garden. And then you see these two dark green conifers. They are a focal points, right? The focal points within there. We have focal path in the upper right. We have the focal points. We have the path. We have drifts. We have masses. We have masses in this upper right. This is September, so these are probably mums here that are not in bloom, but you've got color in the front, you've got color in the back, and these three drifts are sequential mums that are coming. But you don't miss it at all because you have what's in front and what's in the back. So the idea for a design concept using drifts and masses is to layer them. All right. So the path, I would say that the edge, path being the edge, gives you the greatest degree of maintenance, the highest level of ease of maintenance that you can do. Make the path the edge of the bed. Seems simple. I would not do, this is not low maintenance. You have a grass strip on this edge, and then you have the bed itself. For some reason, they didn't bring it all the way to it, probably because there's so much traffic, thousands and thousands of people, and they didn't want their edge messed up. But the idea is the highest degree is let the path be the edge. All right, handling a slope. I'm going to zip through this because basically in handling a slope, an easy, safe way to do it is between 2 and 2.5 feet, building a dry stack wall. In our situation here, you do not need an engineer's permit to build a wall. So plantings love being at the top of the wall, and they love being at the bottom of the wall. The top of the wall being well drained, right? And they usually grow really well. The bottom of the wall, you're going to have some collection of moisture. So the dry stack wall, terracing, and following the contour. Following the contour. Terracing is something that we need to do more of, and that's somewhat energy intensive, but the reward is tremendous. To stabilizing our slopes. When we cut trees on a slope, sometimes we have to. We need to really consider how are we stabilizing that slope. Because without the root structure, we are looking at slides. And this is in small scope. This is not large scope. This is in small landscapes. When you have a slope, it's very difficult to maintain. Terracing, stabilizing with plantings, and limiting clear cut. All right. Now, this one is interesting in that accessing the slope, super important. I have the people that worked on my landscape used a ladder to place on the slope, and then they planted their ground cover. That's because the slope was so difficult. That was the only way to do it. But you never can get on that slope again. It's really difficult. So these stairs don't go straight up the slope. They go at an angle. I thought that was rather clever. All right, mass. We're back. Remember, we're dot, dash, and a mass. We're at a mass at this point. The most intensive thing we can do, that 30%, is to change out. I absolutely adore the North Carolina Arboretum's quilt garden. I've been watching it since the gardens weren't even around when I was in school. The land was purchased, but there wasn't anything. You could come and bike. That was it. But the idea is the masses are used to send a strong message, but also the masses around it are the background. And without the background, you wouldn't be looking focally at the quilt. So if you take that on a small scale, you need evergreen to define the mass. The one to the right, the hardy geraniums with a partial sun, with a more free-flowing masses, works extremely well. And seasonally, they'll go away and then something else will come in, but it doesn't take much. So this is creeping phlox and wild geranium. Designing with a view, I'm just going to cover this and then we're going to go on to slides that give you more. Designing with a view is incredibly important. We have short views and long views. Short views, they are exactly that. You put on your hat and you look. What part of the landscape, if you're standing, do you not see when you come into a space? I look out. Well, very good. You look straight out. If you're right-handed, people, they typically say you look to your right and you look to your left. When you scope into a room, you look to the right, you look to the left, and you look straight out. You're missing right here at your waist and down. You're missing this. This is the thing, until you get to the far end and you turn around and you look. So in a photography point of view, I would always say, I'm taking all these pictures, how about turning around? So I'm going down a trail or going down a path, turn around. Because it's so interesting to look at what you've left behind. So the idea is when you come into a landscape, what the detail that is right at your feet below your waist will not be observed until you're exiting. If it's out a ways, you'll see it, but you won't see it right there. All right, the next one is considering color. Color sets a mood. It gives you energy. It gives you, I found that that is one of the widest talked about things is the bold colors and the fads that come in. The bold colors, the bright colors, the muted colors, the soft colors, right? And we'll get into that. And next we're going to talk about texture. Texture only comes after we do all these other things. You can't have the need really for texture until we've resolved spatially what's happening. But texture is incredibly important because that might be the problem with some people's landscapes. It's just not dealing with texture. A view, very, very simple. A single pane of glass could be a doorway, could be the arch of an understory tree, could be, this is talking about framing. Framing a view. You don't have to go outside in order to see the landscape. And it has a short view and a long view. All right, short view with the detail, right? Where would we put the bog garden with the detail? Why would we put it way out there? If we were placing it, we would place it closer. If we were having fine ferns and Dutchman britches and all things that are really detailed, put them up close and personal. The long view. I think that your eye gets restless if you just see the small room. I think you want that escape many times. So think about the escape. It gives you more rest. The borrow view, the vignette. I've seen where people have done a hedge and cut a hole in the hedge or a fence and just see something through it. And it just became the most wonderful surprise. Screening the view is obviously the opposite of profiling the view. Redirecting your attention. I'll go back. When you're screening a pole, a utility pole, or a utility box, or the garbage cans, or I don't know, think of something. The street, right. So there's a couple things. If it's a singular object and we plant around it, what have we done? We said hello. Now I got a pretty garbage can, whatever. So the idea is we don't ring around. We give it, we maybe give a partial screen, juxtaposition. Do you see what I'm saying? We do a partial screen, one that we have access, and we give it a screen here, we screen here, and we give something else to look at. The separate thing to look at, the separate focus point. Ring around the rosy shouldn't happen. If we're going to say good design, bad design, ring around the rosy shouldn't happen. I see no, I have never been able to justify that one. All right, so let's go on. Viewing from the inside to the outside, as we talked about. We don't have to go outside, but you can give your mind your rest seeing seating out the window. You may never get there, but if you have it through the view, it is a very valuable thing. We talked about prime views, protecting them, and then the surprise. All right, surprise, y'all, don't forget the surprise. If you walk into the space and you see everything all at once, what you got? Cindy has ADD. I get bored really easy. So the idea is, if I see it all at once, isn't there more? There could be. So the idea is the surprise, meaning that long view could maybe lead you. Say there's a flowering tree here, or there's something with fall color, or there's a bright bed, something that draws me to this point, and at that point I turn and there's something else there. So the surprise, not revealing it all, is a concept that you could also add into the landscape. An intentional photo op. Lots of time families get together, friends get together, and they like, oh, let's take a picture. Oh, let's take a picture. Okay, why not think about it ahead of time? Why not have a place that is, I've been known to build rose arbors or vines on arbors, or just corners that have the right, backdrop with the sun behind it at in the morning or afternoon. The idea is that we think about these things. Okay, landscape design. Little bit of color there, eh? Very temporary. The painted stakes in the ground I found very interesting because it really drew me to this spot, because why did they do that? These are tulips, right? But the colors, the blue, why the blue? I was just, mesmerized. This is in Columbia, the Botanical Garden in Columbia, Riverbanks. And they had just done this spot. Art in the garden. There's nothing wrong with art in the garden. Some of you played with the color wheel. The color wheel is interesting in that this side of the color wheel that is shown here is color theory. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Let's think about the dynamics of color in the garden. I'm going to first off say no color is not allowed in the garden, meaning all colors are in nature and can be in the garden, and they can be next to each other, and it can be fabulous. But why not understand a little bit more about the basics of color theory, and then we understand, for instance, complementary color of red and green will remind you of Christmas, right? But red and green, the green scientifically makes the red redder. It gives you the punch. Hence, an Italian restaurant, etc. The blue and the orange remind you of a sunset. The blue and the orange together make the colors more brilliant, right? But cool and warm are a whole different prospect of color theory. The cool colors on the top, the green to the purple, violet, and then the warm colors, the red to the yellow, right? So we got cool, we got warm, and they do different things. We have harmonious color. Let's see if we go hot colors, as we'd call them. Cool colors. Complementary colors that we just talked about. Primary colors. Primary colors I have the most trouble with. I don't know why, but they have a hard time being, they give you punch, they have a place, but they are, I don't find them restful. I don't find them giving me energy. I find them striking and attractive, but I don't find them that way. But harmonious colors are the side-by-side colors. Harmonious colors, they will, if you put red and orange together, it will read as red, kind of in the distance, right? It'll push it. The blue and the green or the blue and the violet together reads that blue. So they enhance each other. Okay? So in a scheme, I don't know if it's kind of washed out on this screen a little bit. The top you see some hot colors, right? Some hot colors. That's at the Playhouse. This is a Master Gardening Hendersonville or Flat Rock garden site. The lower one is more muted. Silvery pink, deeper pink, light pink, and a more muted. So the effect that you want has a lot to do with it. Harmonious color, side by side, setting the mood. Monochromatic. Let's talk about monochromatic. Monochromatic, very punchy, right? Does this have a place in the landscape? Ooh, a little bit. A little bit. Does it read? Does it? It's actually really well done. I mean, it's really well done, but can you live with it? I'm not sure. So you can take things a little too far. A little too far, but it is fun. It's really fun. All right. So if you take, the first time I got exposed to a white garden, I was a student, J.C. Ralston at NC State was doing the Arboretum for the college there. And he was starting to lay it out. So he had his students laying out beds. And he'd say what he was doing. And we were like, a white garden? He said, yeah. And I come to find out, white gardens have been around since a long time ago, at least in the 1800s here in the United States. But it's the absence of color. So white, what does white do in the dim? We were in the dim. Let's say it's dusk at this point. White, it glows and shines and it wakes up and it's soothing and it has that, extends the life of the garden, in my opinion. The white garden, think about it. Let's just take out the white and just do the green. If we have the green, that's where the texture comes in. That's where the form comes in. If you don't have texture changes in a white garden, you got a problem because it's going to be like walk in, walk out, right? So the white garden, it's a challenge. It's a super challenge, but it's a lot of fun. And then if you just, for that 30%, right, punch in color in pots or in temporary plantings in there, you can always take it out. And then it goes back to a white garden. So I really want to emphasize the idea of the monochromatic, but also the white garden as being a common garden. So this has to do with plant form and texture. We're probably, how are we doing on time? We are
13 minutes of 11.
Okay, here we go. So hold on your hats here. So form has a lot to do with it, also texture. This is a late September garden, and you can see the textural changes in the form as it follows in. This is also form and texture as you're coming in. Very well played, in my opinion. Layers, contrast, right plant, right place. Unity is brought on by repeating those elements, right? So we have the rust, we have the same color containers, but we have repeating colors, and it's very, it looks very combined. It looks very rustful. What does it take for a plant to grow? We know all these things, right? But let's go on down. We need space and we need time. space and time. When do we reevaluate our landscape? Every time you go out. Exactly. Like, oh, why did I do that? Why did I do that? Every 5 years wouldn't be a bad idea. I do know, I was talking to someone and they were saying, oh, I didn't like the landscape design because the plantings were, they're going to be, these big shrubs are planted so close together, immediately I'm going to be removing them. Okay, but if it's less than 5 years, yeah, you got a problem. That's a waste of energy and time. And that's like for a show, for a, you went there for a conference or something and they just threw a bunch of plants together. So every 5 years is a good thing. This used to be my statement is plant something for now that's quick growing, gives you the feedback that you want. You know, a flowering tree or something like that, and then plant something for the future. If that old oak tree fell down and you've got a good location for an oak tree, plant one now. I mean, I don't want to hear it's not going to be in my lifetime. Why should I plant it? I don't want to hear it. I'm sorry. But when is the landscape plan done? When are you done? Right? It take every 5 years you're going to really, really evaluate it. But when is it done? Like I'm done. I'm done. I might be financially done. I might be energy done. I might be, you know, I got time to do something else done. But it's never done. All right. So in plant selection, we have a wonderful resource called the North Carolina Plant Toolbox. You can find all of the needed things, just like on a plant tag. You can find all the needed things to select the right plant for the right place. But some of the things that's not in there is this bottom. What does that plant mean to me? Is it part of my religion? I found that with jasmines when I lived in Texas. Is it a historical plant? Does it have a story to tell? Every plant has a story to tell. Is it a family pass-along like the peonies? What does it remind me of? Okay, so these are the things that are not going to be found on the plant list, and you probably need to find a place for that plant if it will grow well here. This plant in the right corner is from the North Carolina Arboretum. It is the Franklinia. It is a plant that is extinct living in the wild. So, hey, for some reason, and it does well here. All right, this just giving you a general idea here. This is Cindy's head. Plant use, aesthetics, maintenance, plant physiology, economic use, personal preference. These are all questions of why would the right plant be in the right place. So I could ask a question about spacing, or I like it, or hardiness, or texture, or sun exposure, or pH, whatever. All those things come into the resolve of choosing the right plant for the right place. This is a sample of the toolbox in doing a search. It is not perfect, but it is a really great resource, and it's just going to get better with time, and I encourage you to use it. All right, so these blobs come into the design concept. This is just, the idea here is that we used the dot, the dash, and the mass to come up with the design concept in general, and then we work on, then after concept comes a planting plan. So concept of planting plan, what gives the boundaries, what opens up creates the rooms, what creates the uses that are there. So on the left are the blobs, on the right is more of a planting plan. And this is more of a planting plan. And to the left are all the things on that. Remember the first sentence where we wrote the vision, the interview of yourself? These are the things that had to be on the plan. So on the left had to be the entrance, the prime views, the huge lawn for this particular person, reducing the maintenance, just all of the things that had to happen in the statement has to fit the plan. And then you do the planting plan, right? Remember the cyclical? It's going in a cycle. All right, we're going to get 2 minutes a person, I think. Jens Jensen, may I introduce? He's a Danish designer. And when I discovered him, I discovered something that I really enjoyed of my own landscape design. He put his paths, he put his trees in beds, he screened, he opened up spaces, he had long spaces, he had short spaces, and his writings, he wrote Siftings, which is an interesting book. This guy developed his trade, he lived a long life, was very prolific, and he worked from the ground up as far as in the landscape field. So just giving a squint of your eye, looking where the paths are going and how organic the landscape design is, really fits a philosophy that I really appreciate. So the idea is get your inspiration where you can. So this one is where the formal meets the natural. So you have a formal garden, but also the natural. You're in the same landscape, and then we have a very utilitarian edge. So we have an approach and views, and then that's an orchard to the left, but you see where the orchard is in the relationship to the residence. So we're going to think of groupings. We're going to think of dot, dash, and the mass. We're going to think about layers. We're going to think about transitioning, considering size and not just the instant landscape, right? Putting those trees in beds, that would be just your one takeaway from today. If you're going to plant a tree, plant it in a bed. Plant it in a bed. I'm so sad about the trees in the county, public spaces, that have been weed whacked or sunken and buried because of the mountain of mulch. We need to put the tree in the bed, not do the tree and then put the bed. Then you put the bed, build the bed, plant the tree. All right. All right, inspiration. These are from Gertrude Jekyll, the winter. She's the late 40s lady, garden design, extremely prolific. Her paintings just tell it all. The picture to the right is a pathway that is in the Southern Highland Reserve. Put the right plant in the right place. Know where you are, and be a part of the greater good. And I think that's it. Unless it went to sleep. Let's go back. Okay.
Are you going to take questions, Cindy?
I'll be more than happy to take any questions.